is happening, fellow fantasy GMs? I am JJ Wang. He is the bearded one, DJ Dub. And with our powers combined, we are the Fantasy Couriers.
Holy moly, it looks like the NFL has finally learnt from fantasy football. Trade-a-palooza is what Tuesday was. Wonky, crazy bunker balls we had last week. Couriers, Tony, and everything else just went crazy. Trades.
Yeah, but I'm going to look past the trades for a minute and get to maybe, I don't know, it's not really bigger news for fantasy, but as you know, we grew up in the Commanders area, and there is actually, so I want to give a big shout out to all the Commander fans out there. There's actually a chance that Dan Snyder sells the team.
And today, do you know who the key investors' names popping up right now are?
Oh, I haven't heard anything about that.
Bezos and Jay-Z.
Yeah, I know. Well, Bezos was in on trying to get in on the Broncos, but Walmart just outbid him. It's hard to compete against Walmart.
Yeah, but the problem is Snyder hates Bezos, so that'll be curious. But my buddy at school, who's a big Commanders fan, was
let me tell you, if Bezos comes up to Snyder and says, "I'll give you $6.5 billion," I don't think he's really gonna care who he hates, honestly.
I think Snyder's just tired of dealing with the crap because he's a dirtbag. He's like, it's all coming into me. I'm not doing it anymore. And I think that's what it is. So anyway, we are the Courier, Fantasy Couriers. You can hit us up anywhere on the internet. Not going to waste your time going through. All that's in the linear notes. If you don't know how to find us by now, just type it in the internet and you will find us. Stuff pops up a little bit of everywhere. But we're going to go through, talk a little bit about the trades this week. Apparently the Facebook algorithm didn't hit enough people, or everybody knows who they're playing, because I've only got 2 Facebook questions, and one of them actually relates to trades, and then we'll just look through the games and see what's going on. As we are, we're over halfway done. We're at the home stretch heading into the playoffs. So some teams are totally dead by now. Some teams can coast to the playoffs, and a lot of teams are pretty much sitting right there in the middle, 4-4, 5-4, 5-3, 3-5, 4-4. Those are all three basically the same teams as you're going down the stretch.
Yeah, it's pretty much like all my redraft leagues. That's how they pretty much. I'm just right there in the 5, 6, 7 seed, and nothing spectacular. I think a 4 seed one, but yeah, it's just kind of evened out. Nothing's too spectacular so far.
Yeah, it's just been the injuries have just been building up. And before we jump into the big trade fallout, one of the big injuries that could impact a bunch of stuff is Rashad Bateman just got put on season-ending IR. He is done for the year. Does that boost Duvernay a lot? Does that affect Mark Andrews? Or, dark horse that everybody laughed at me in one league, Deshaun Jackson?
I think you just put Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews out there more often together and just throw to the tight ends all the time. And then, every now and then, Duvernay and Jackson would get deep. So, I mean, I'd go for more of the tight ends, but they just don't throw a lot. They just don't throw a lot to the wide receivers.
Bateman had a couple good games there, then he started to drop off, and it'll be curious to see what Lamar thinks of Jackson, because they were talking a lot of him during that Thursday night game and looking at it. Another thing that depends when you listen to us, Brandon Cooks is all ticked off right now, so he's not playing Thursday. And Nico Collins is out, so your boy Davis Mills is totally doomed, half because of his doing, the other half because he's in Texas, right?
Yeah, this is going to be bad.
It's cool.
Yeah, I guess the Davis Mills train ain't really work out. It's really bad down there. Yeah, this could be. I mean, I don't even know how long the Eagles play their starters, right?
That is they'll have 50 by halftime. Who knows? It's because I was trying to look up who could I pick up to be a receiver for the Texans if I needed like a guy during all these crazy wacky bye weeks, and I was like, man, I don't know if I could pick up any of those guys. So if you're hearing us Thursday, the depth chart, here we go. Philip Dorsett. If Cooks is ticked for the season, these are who they're stuck with. Philip Dorsett, Chris Moore, and Tyron Johnson, who they just signed recently. He had I had him a couple years ago in Bourbon, I think, before you joined in. Would you say Brandon Cooks is all ticked off and he sets the rest of the year? Nico Collins is strong. Are Dorsett, Moore, or Johnson a guy that you might just set on your roster to watch if you have a spot?
I mean, maybe, but was Brandon Cooks or Collins relevant at all anyway? And they're the better receivers. So if your better receivers really can't be all that great, I mean, because like they had decent games. I'm not saying they were garbage. They had decent games, but if your 1 and 2 receiver wasn't that impressive, I really can't imagine your 3, 4, 5, and 6 are.
It was interesting. Nico was starting. Like I was getting excited because right before the bye, before he got this injury, he was start his he was moving up in targets and catches and yards. I was like, oh, maybe he really is going to do something. And then he
Well,
got hurt and he's done.
yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of I don't feel like there's really a whole lot of quality targets to go around down there.
Yeah, because you would think there'd be a lot of garbage time. So maybe that's how
Oh,
Pierce
it's
will get me some
awful.
touchdowns this week.
It's bad.
Man, maybe I should have gotten you. Who's your other favorite team? I should have gotten you the other cup, new cup next year.
I like the 49ers a lot, but I
Yeah.
like Buffalo. The 49ers I like a lot.
Are they? Do you think they're a challenger for the NFC Championship now?
Well, absolutely, because I mean, there's what they're right there in the mix for their division, right? So
Oh, that's
all they got to do
terrible
is
division.
win that division, and they get in the playoffs and get hot. I mean, obviously McCaffrey's getting every running back carry from here on out to the end of the season, and Debo comes back. I mean, I feel like they're going to be just as good as any other team, like going into the playoffs if they can stay healthy. That's been the big issue so far.
And that defense. Whew. Anyway, so trade-a-palooza this week. There were trades galore. There were some defensive trades that we're not going to go too much into. One I'll highlight because it's my favorite trade, but because it does answer a question I've had for a while. But one of the trade that came through was Chase Claypool. I didn't think he was going to get traded, but he went for a measly second to Chicago. How does that affect Justin Fields, Darnell Mooney, and Chase Claypool?
When you say measly second, I don't believe that. Claypool was Claypool was drafted. What he was? How what round was he drafted? After
I'm
the
good.
second, right? He was if he was drafted after the second. Has Claypool done anything at all to warrant an upgrade in his draft stock? So I think it was
He was a
a
second
big
rounder.
yeah. So I mean, I think his value has actually gone down considering really hasn't done anything. But like I said, Chicago needs a wide receiver, and sometimes you got to overpay, and I don't see nothing wrong with it. I mean, you got to get your quarterback who's actually playing well, a decent weapon. He wasn't happy in Pittsburgh, evidently. Go George Pickens, maybe he can get a catch. But
Okay.
yeah, I think he's going to get an opportunity. But it's like I've seen somebody say, I'm not sure where, that there's just not a lot of throwing targets there right now.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just see how it goes. Gives him another like big down the field target though.
So is he a wait and see?
I
Would you
think he's a
start
wait
him
and
this
see. I
week?
mean,
You got to start him this
I
week
think
because of all the buys.
well, yeah, yeah, I would guess. I mean, some leagues I'd have to start him. I wouldn't have any issues with it. Like I
I mean,
said, you just don't know how much you just don't know how much he's going to play.
yeah. I think this week, yeah, you don't have. I think in the long run, though, looking probably more dynasty, a little bit redraft, but dynasty, you have him and Mooney. And I think I mentioned last week that I think Mooney's better suited as a two. So getting Claypool and Mooney there could be the weapons that Fields is because Fields has been throwing to nobody.
Yeah, I
Mooney
mean, this is.
garbage.
I
So
mean,
this
I
could
think
really help him. He's a good
yeah,
target.
this can only help. I can't see it getting any
Yeah.
worse. So I mean,
And I see it helping Mooney. Like I think Mooney
yeah, I
not
mean, I
having to
think
worry about the one. Sometimes a good two. Like Reggie Wayne was great when Marvin Harrison was there, and then he grew into that role. Like Claypool is not near that, but you know what I mean as far as needing that second person.
yeah, I mean, we'll see. And like I said, it's not a high passing volume team. I think Justin Fields throws for 150 yards a week. So I mean, it's gonna be
Hey,
tough.
all Claypool needs is 75 and a touch.
That's
Okay,
right. Yeah.
one of the trades that I think shocked me more. TJ Hawkinson to Minnesota for just a dilly dally of picks here and there, a back and forth. So it's there's like a bajillion picks just swapped around. But what do you think? I mean, obviously Irv Smith's dead. Hawkinson in Minnesota, is his value better or worse?
I don't. I mean,
I
I
mean, he's
don't. I
never been
think
great, but
it's pretty. I think it's pretty much the same. I know Jared Goff hasn't been great, but he's had good games. He's had games where he passes for a lot of yards, and Hawkinson's nowhere to be found. I mean, Is that going to happen in Minnesota? I mean, maybe Cousins gives the ball to the tight end a little more. I guess over his career, he's done a decent job at that. But I mean, me personally, I just think it's the same. Maybe an uptick because the Vikings are a better team, but he's not competing with any. He's not competing with Justin Jefferson on the Lions, and he couldn't really put together anything with the Lions.
So John's question from Facebook, we didn't have a lot because the algorithm didn't like us this week. Um, he asked, is Hawkinson going to be top 3 in points for tight end by the end of the season, being in a high-powered offense like that, as not being, I mean, if you think on Detroit, they had to look at Amon-Ra and him, and that was it. So they could double team him and double team Amon-Ra, but apparently double teamed him more, maybe. I don't know. They were just terrible. But now that you know, he's going to get single teamed, probably a linebacker or maybe a safety because of the weapons on the outside. They got 3 legit receivers there, 3 decent receivers there, a superstar, a good old guy, and an up and comer on that team, and Dalvin Cook coming out of the backfield. So he's not going to be double or anything. Could he be? What do you think about his prospects of being a top 3 in points by the end of the season, or maybe for the last part of the season here?
I mean, I think weapon-wise, it kind of hurts him, right? With more weapons. I mean, they got more people to throw to. In Detroit, I mean, there wasn't nobody to throw to. I mean, at some point, if you're that good of a player, you're going to get the ball. And
Yeah.
he just never got the ball, and it was weird. But then he's this is what his 3rd year, I think.
Yeah.
So I mean, like tight ends always seem to develop a little late. I mean, he's a young dude. So, I mean, I'm not giving up on him in any way. I mean, if I got him, I think I'm going to keep him. Because I mean, I think it could help. I think there's possibility it could be better.
I love the meme showing him going from being like short cut trimmed. Now he looks like a Viking. So now he plays for the Vikings with all his long hair. Then we had Naheem Hines going to Buffalo in a swap for Zach Moss going to Indianapolis and a pick. Buffalo made out like bandits here, right?
Yeah, I mean, Moss doesn't. I mean, Hines is way more valuable than Moss. I mean, especially for that offense, they just want to throw the ball all the time. And Hines is a really good pass catcher, and he can run the ball as well. I guess James Cook just ain't ready for that role yet. If they're going to bring in which is fine. I got no issues with that. I mean, he's still a young running back. He's got a long ways to go. I mean, plus if he can learn from Naheem Hines, who he's pretty much probably going to role play like after towards his career goes on. I mean, it is what it is. They're trying to win now, so more weapons.
So Naheem Hines, is he a running back 3 flex for the rest of the year? And does this murder Singletary?
I think it pretty much does. I mean, there's not a lot of volume to go around anyway. I mean, I think Singletary might get some runs, but I mean, if they're going to be passing as much as they do, they're going to want the pass catching back in there, and they pass a lot.
Yeah, I do. Okay, and then my favorite trades of the week. You know, I was bouncing off the walls when Chubb came to Miami for a first rounder. Miami sent Chase Edmonds, who apparently has the most dropped running back passes in the league, which I've yelled at a lot, to Denver, which to me signaled 2 things. One, I thought they were keeping their first round picks for Tua. So that means Tua's going to be stuck there for a while because they can't draft a quarterback next year. 2, the defense got better, which is not part of our fantasy show. So that means 2 is there for a while, which is good for me in Dynasty and a bunch of guys in Dynasty not having to worry about that. Chase Edmonds to Denver doesn't move the needle at all for him or Denver running backs, does it?
No, I mean, I'm not. Like I said, this really isn't any fantasy relevant. I mean, yeah, it helps Tua stay there long, but I didn't really think Tua was going anywhere anyway. I mean, he's still going to stay his full 5 years. We're not going to get rid of him after that, anyways. I can't imagine. Can't imagine they will. So yeah, Chase Edmonds is Chase Edmonds. If he can't do nothing in Miami, I don't see him doing much in Denver because Denver's terrible.
And they turned around and got Jeff Wilson. So they just messed up all of my Raheem Mostert, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So if you had to have, who would you rather have if you have to have them? I mean, both of those guys probably fall into running back 3 right now, possible flex, and you just got to see how it pans out.
Yeah, I think it continues being the same deal. I guess like it was in San Francisco when they were together. Mostert got the first carries, and then Wilson would get the second. And then whenever Mostert got hurt, Wilson would just take over the job and look really good. But I think they're both going to get more carries. They're just trying to run the ball more, which means is actually hurts Tua a little bit, right? If they're bringing in a running back because the other running back wasn't working out, this just means they want to run the ball more.
I think it just means he likes Jeff Wilson a lot, to be
I
honest.
think, oh, absolutely, 100%.
And the sneaky one, Calvin Ridley to the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a dynasty segment here. Um, I'm guessing we're all assuming that Calvin Ridley's not going to gamble on any teams this year, which is it's ironic. Calvin Ridley gambled what $1,000. He misses a whole year. Deshaun Watson misses 10 games. Anyway, that's neither here. 11 games, whatever it is. So Calvin Ridley now.
But to be fair, it's totally different aspects of the way it affects the game.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Totally different.
It's just like Plaxico Burress going to jail for shooting himself in the leg and then missing years. But anyway, Calvin Ridley is a Jaguar next year. He'll be 29, I believe. What do you think of that?
He'll be 29.
I think it's 20 or 28. Let me look at Calvin Ridley's. I'll look it up right, but it's 28 or 29. So
yeah, I mean, Calvin Ridley was good when he was playing. It's going to be a long time until he plays again, and now he's like you say,
he'll turn 28 in December.
He'll be 20. Oh yeah, so he'll be he's going to be pretty. I didn't realize he was that old.
Prime is 27, 28.
Yeah, but he's missing this prime right now. I mean, he's going to have to come back and not playing football in what, a year and a half, and going to 2 years going to a new team. I mean, I think it can only help him playing for a better quarterback. I guess we'll see. Trevor Lawrence isn't playing all that great at the moment, but maybe this helps.
Trevor Lawrence is Tua next year, right? He's going to have Kirk on one side, Ridley on the other side, and the excuses will be gone. Ingram's looking decent, so he might be stabilizing some there, and then he's got the stud running back that I think is this next year is going to be like, hey, T-Law, you show us what you got. We got you what you need. So one Facebook question here from Eric. This is a tough one. Do you start Devonta Foreman over Mixon, Ramondre, or ETN in a PPR league?
So I think you would start him over Mixon. I would probably start him over Ramondre, which it hurts because Damien Harris did come back and still got 11 carries. I know they're going to run a lot, but I mean, if he's already getting 11 carries a second game back, maybe only ramp up more, maybe it evens out a little bit. So I think Ramondre becomes more touchdown reliant than he has been the last few weeks. But other than that, I think it'd be Foreman. I wouldn't start him over ETN. I don't think I'm in that. I can't start him over that yet. But the other two, I wouldn't. It'd be hard. I mean, to start them Foreman over both of those. But I could see a world where it's possible.
You know, it's crazy. All these guys have amazing matchups. The Panthers have the Bengals. The Bengals have the Panthers. The Jaguars have the Raiders, and the Colts have the Patriots. So like the only one I would think about doing it for, or the Patriots have the Colts. Like I might not even do over Ramondre. Ramondre still scored me 23 points, even with Harris still poaching carries last week. He's getting the catches, which is valuable in PPR. Mixon would be the one I would consider. But I would keep an eye on Chuba Hubbard. If Chuba Hubbard's looking like he's going to play, I think he's going to steal some of those carries so Foreman won't be total bell cow. And then him and Mixon, you just pick your poison, who you want to live or die with, because whichever one you pick always is the wrong guy, so it won't matter.
Yeah, you're right.
That's what I tell a bunch of guys. I'm like, pick your poisons whatever you get. So real quick discussion here before we do just a couple game through games. Trade deadline is coming in a lot of leagues as we get ready for playoffs, and looking from the redraft league, how do you approach that? Because you can't trade with the dumpster teams because that's almost collusion. Like, how does that work? Has the ship sailed, or?
I mean, I find it extremely hard to pull off a trade and redraft for major players. And at this point in the game, if you're trying to win, you're looking for major players. And it's hard to give up major players when only way to get major players in redraft is to give up major players, or an abundance of players. And I feel like it's hard to work out in redraft. I think redraft works better when it's kind of like the middle of the tier type guys. Because like you said, if you start trading with the last team and he gives you Christian McCaffrey for something, I mean, that's like, man, that's kind of bogus.
Well, I think two targets I would have right now, and it would depend. And it's team dependent if you can redraft trade, because redraft trades are a bear. It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Look at Jamar Chase. Look at Hollywood Brown. Those two guys are hurt right now. If your team can survive the next 3 or 4 weeks without those guys, and that other team needs a player to make a playoff push because they just got kicked in the butt, you could trade. You could might be able to pull something there because that team needs the boost, and you got the survival, and that's really the only. Those are two names that pop out to me as
But
guys to look at.
you also got if you're giving up Jamar Chase, you got to be pretty stocked at wide receiver though.
Or you
Because I
need
mean,
minutes. Like you can't get 0-0-0 because he's out for 3. They didn't put him on IR, but it still could be 3 or 4 weeks. So you're getting 0-0-0 versus I give you a Devin Duvernay
oh my
and
god.
who's a wide receiver or or something to that. That's what they got to go because he's gonna get 10, which is more than 0. So you're playing with that guy. That's your own. That's
I,
the only
there's,
thing that you got.
I don't care. There is no way I would ever give up Jamar Chase for Devin
Oh, it'd be
Duvernay.
it would be multiple pieces. Yeah. But you know what I mean. So
I,
you
I,
got pieces in there. Like
that's why I say it's redraft trades are just so hard, man.
now,
Especially for the
dynasty
big
trades
players.
totally different.
Oh,
They're
totally
throwing picks
different.
around like crazy right now.
Yeah, because I mean, because in dynasty, age matters, and you can kind of work age into the trade. And in redraft, age doesn't matter one bit. I don't care if McCaffrey's 29 or he's not that old, but if he's an old running back, or Derrick Henry's 28, I don't care because I just need him like right now.
Yeah.
So it's dynasty's way easy. You just go around, throw a couple picks around. People love those things.
Yep. And an interesting thing I heard on the radio was, they're looking at NFL's almost starting to look like fantasy. Like, we don't know what we're getting in draft picks. You get solid players right now. Like, hey, I got Claypool. I don't know who that second round pick is going to be. It could be N'Keal Harry, and that's what NFL teams are starting to look at. We're like, hey, Dolphins have a first round pick. Dude, it could be some garbage guy. We got Bradley
Telling
Chubb.
you, it's the Madden generation controlling these teams. This is what these GMs grew up doing, trading their second round picks and their first round picks because they know when you draft first round picks in Madden, I mean, it takes too long to build up their career. It just takes a lot of work. Or you could just trade for somebody who's really, really good, and that's finally what's starting to happen.
And now a message from our favorite sponsor.
Underdog Fantasy is the best and easiest place to play fantasy sports. Now that we are in season, they offer even more fantasy sports options. You can choose to play 4 to 6 round draft contests with up to 10 people. You can even create your own private draft room.
And that's not all. Underdog also offers pick'em fantasy contests where you decide if players will go higher or lower than a listed stat line, from touchdowns to yards to interceptions and many more. It's a fun way to show your fantasy prowess. Sign up now with the code Couriers, and they'll double your first deposit up to $100 in bonus cash.
And just in case you missed that, when you make your first deposit of 10 or more dollars, deposit 100, get 100 free.
And with their slick mobile app and user-friendly website, you'll have no problem jumping in and drafting your squad or making your best picks.
So join Underdog today, and don't forget to use the code Couriers. A link is in the notes of the podcast.
Now back to the podcast. Game by game preview. Okay, here we go. Browns, Cowboys, Broncos, Giants, Steelers, 49ers on bye. Your teams are decimated this week, people. So we got to look through here, see what we can dig out. We're going to look almost through some of these games and pull some names that maybe you might not play coming in. So we're going to ignore Thursday night. Let's go to Sunday. Chargers, Falcons. Josh Palmer is almost like a must-start receiver for most people this week, right?
Hasn't he? Well, I guess, but I mean, he's had control of the offense for weeks now, right? As being a guy, and he really hasn't done anything. So I really don't see it changing. But I probably end up having to start him this week. So yeah, I mean, gotta start him, but I'm not
Kyle
happy.
Pitts get a touchdown this week?
Probably not. I'm not going back-to-back weeks on Kyle Pitts and a touchdown.
Marcus Mariota, are you starting him as a quarterback one? Even he is. Are you starting him over like Tom Brady?
Oh, I might start him. Oh, yeah, I'd probably start him over Tom Brady at this point. Just he's been a little more consistent. At least Brady, you just don't know what you're going to get out of Brady at the moment.
So you got Dolphins at the Bears. We're looking at is it gonna be lopsided? Like what? Miami's playing Chicago this week. Justin Fields is going to have to run a lot, but Miami doesn't really let quarterbacks run. They let running backs get the reception. So it's a Khalil Herbert week, right?
Yeah, I mean, it seems that like it could be a David Montgomery week because I feel like that backfield kind of alternates. It
Last week
wouldn't
was
surprise me. David Montgomery comes out and scores 20 points because he gets the touchdown, right? Or and then Khalil Herbert, doesn't get the touchdown, but he still gets like 76 yards or whatever. I
Does
mean,
Tyreek get another 200?
he might. I mean, but it seems like he doesn't do it. He doesn't do that in back-to-back weeks either. Seems to be the same thing he was doing in Kansas City. I don't see it probably drops down to like 96, which is still good because it's only going to give you, 12, 13 points because he doesn't score touchdowns.
He gets the catches though, but he's the wide receiver one, and I've seen him in 2 dynasty leagues this week go for 2 first round picks and multiple other things as well. It's been crazy. Like I tried to get in on it, but I thought the one guy undersold when he got him because he got some other pieces, but it was better than what I offered. Panthers and the Bungles. Which running back? The guy had. So you said you would start Foreman over Mixon in this contest.
Yeah, because the Bengals are, I don't know, Bengals are scary. I mean, Mixon's coming off what a 6-point fantasy game. I mean, seems like he does that quite often these days, and that offense just doesn't look great. So I'm sticking with Foreman. I ride the hot hand.
You got 3 receivers in this league, and you might have them scattered throughout your team. So if you have Tyler Boyd, you have T. Higgins, who was kind of down last week, and you have DJ Moore. DJ Moore is the best start of the 3, right?
I'd say right now, like I say, sticking with the Foreman, they just ride the hot hand at the moment. I mean, if they're playing hot, I know it's hard. It's still hard to trust.
Which
Um,
Bengals receiver?
I would trust T. Higgins more than I would Tyler Boyd. But like I said, Tyler Boyd's a good start this week. I mean,
Yeah. Terrible Packers and the terrible Lions.
oh, great game.
Oh, it's going to be a great one. Does Swift is still putting up 14, but he still seems like he's down.
I mean, the coach said so. Swift only had like 5 carries last week,
Yeah.
and the coach said they gave him one too many carries. He just wasn't ready yet. So I think he kind of looked kind of like the same game as last week, not getting the carries. Jamal Williams stealing all the touchdowns.
Amon Ra a top 12 receiver, or is he hurt by Hawk being gone?
I mean, it just depends on what the offense shows up. I mean, if it's the 190-yard offense, then it's gonna
But
be
there's
you
no other
can't really.
receivers. He gets 100 yards, he's done. You know,
But
that's not bad.
yeah, but he's not going to get everything. I mean, if they're only throwing for 190 yards as
Yeah.
opposed to 330 or something like that, like that's still you still got he's still a good
Swift gets
start,
90, he gets
especially
100.
especially this week. Probably is a top 12.
Raiders and the Jaguars, two win teams. Who would have thought that from the Raiders? You start Derek Carr, you start Trevor Lawrence.
I'd probably start Trevor Lawrence. I'm not very confident in Derek Carr right now.
Who has a better week, ETN or Jacobs?
I think ETN.
Wow.
And
And
I think the offense is running a little better, but your boy Waller is not really helping anybody out
he's
this
not
year, is he?
playing. He's terrible. Is Adams going to just go bonkers after last week?
When was the last time Adams went bonkers?
A couple weeks ago. He had a couple
Yeah,
of games, but he got
I
0.
mean,
Like, golly.
I hope he goes. I mean, he's got to do better than what he did last week, right? But he still hasn't been what we thought.
Colts Patriots. You probably got one later, one earlier. You have Jonathan Taylor and Ramondre Stevenson. You only can play one. Who do you play?
This boy's got to play Ramondre Stevenson. I mean, at least it's working with him. And he's had like 3 or 4 good games in a row. I mean, he's been solid all year, and Taylor hasn't given you anything. But I mean, if you're in a world where you got to start only one of those, I mean, good God, how good's your team?
Well, no, you got Stevenson like in the 8th round, so you might have drafted 2 top running backs to start the draft. That's what I was thinking. Two other ones. Which quarterback for your QB2 in a super flex? Ellinger or Jones?
Allen or Jones?
Ugh.
Oh man.
And then while you're thinking about that, Pittman or Jacoby Myers?
I mean, I still got to go Pittman. I don't. I mean, I know it's still hard, but
I'd still
Myers
start
is
Jones. I think it'd be Mac Jones, right?
Mac Jones. What was the other one? Man, I'm losing my
Sam
mind.
Ellinger.
Hey, I go Mac Jones over Sam Ellinger. At least you know what you're going to get kind of from Mac Jones. Sam Ellinger is still kind of rough.
Bills and the Jets. Does James Robinson get into the game this week? So we see he gets more totes this week, correct?
I mean, maybe we'll see. I
The
mean,
Bills, though.
it's only yeah. So I mean, they only got so many running backs, and they like to run the ball. They're not going to let Wilson sit back there and throw it all over the place. So he's got to
Jets
get
score more than 10.
maybe not. I'm not guaranteeing that. I'm not going there.
Okay, you got the Vikings and the Commanders. Oh, this could be just as bad as that last game, right?
Vikings and the Commanders.
As bad as the Bills and the Jets. The Vikings just roll.
Yeah, man, Mez might be there could be a possibility.
Is
The
Brian Robinson? Oh,
Commanders
sorry.
are playing better though.
And they started. Gibson took over the starting role again, but they split the carries evenly for the most part. If you have both those guys, which do you put into your lineup?
I think you got to start Gibson, right? Because he just catches the ball. He gets more receiving yards, and I don't think Brian Robinson doesn't seem too involved in the passing game.
KJ Osborne, a bye week fill in.
I mean, I guess if you had, I mean, I would not be excited at all to start KJ Osborne in this.
You saw the people that are off.
Oh yeah, like I said, if that's what you got, I mean, if that's your options, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. But
Seahawks, we get the 1 minute for all these. Seahawks, Cardinals, Geno or Kyler? Who would you start?
Geno.
Rams and the Buccaneers, Stafford or Brady? Who would you start?
Stafford.
Allen Robinson or Chris Godwin?
Godwin. That sounds.
Let's say that Cooper Kupp's out.
I'm still going Godwin.
Okay, he's starting in the Rams backfield.
No.
Titans versus the Chiefs. Have you heard anything about Tannehill? Is he playing?
They haven't said yet.
Okay, Kadarius Toney. Does he make any difference this year, or is that a future draft? Future.
I mean, I think he might by the end of the season. He might have a splash play here and there.
Juju wide receiver 1 for the rest of the year.
I don't know about wide receiver. I say wide receiver 2.
Monday night. Ravens at the Saints Monday night. Alvin Kamara gonna continue.
I mean, continue what? Last week, probably. No, probably not. I think
he's been rolling.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think he's back to that 8, 9, 10 running back. I'm not putting my full trust in him, but yeah, I mean, he's looking better. Yeah.
Devin Duvernay, top 24.
I guess. I mean, I guess you could say the top. It's the only option at the moment.
What about last one? Michael Thomas just went to IR. So what do you think about Rashid? Oh, what's the dude's name? The dude Rashid.
Yeah, something. But yeah, I mean, but he had those 2 splash plays and hasn't showed up since. I mean, Michael Thomas hasn't played all year. I mean, he's only got the.
But he's only been active 3 weeks.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if you could safe to start him yet. I mean, it's still tough.
Okay. Oh, that's a quick run through. I'll put some run through later on this weekend. Give us some closing wisdom so you can go to soccer practice, bud.
Yeah, I mean, talking about these trades, I mean, go big or go home, right? I mean, if you want your guy, go get your guy. I mean, don't sell short, don't a player here or a little player there. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do to get those trades through. Don't be trying to skimp just to think you won the trade, because it's gonna look different in everybody's eyes anyway. As always, trust yourself and trust the process.